In this tutorial I'm going to demonstrate how to flash our PIC programmer. I'm using a PIC 16F88 running at 20 megahertz. I have an LCD connected to that, and I'll be using two additional chips, both from Dallas, a DS18S20 real-time clock and a DS18S20 one-wire temperature sensor. So I'm using Microcode Studio as my IDE, and I'm using the PIC Basic Pro language to write my code. I have a small header here which just has some basic information to help me keep track of what this code is. I have some simple declarations, setting up my variables, a small initialization area where I run a splash screen on the LCD briefly to describe what is about to come online, and I just finish setting my variables up before entering the main loop. I like to keep my main loop as small and tidy as possible by using subroutines where possible, and this just makes the whole thing a lot easier to track and to debug later on if necessary. So all I'm going to be doing with this code is basically getting the time from the real-time clock and showing the date and time on the LCD along with the temperature from the DS18S20. I have used some trickery. There are two different timing loops in here simply because the LCD has limited display area and I have quite a lot I want to show on there. So I've tested this already to make sure it compiles, and it does. You'll see I've got two choices up here in this particular IDE. I have the compile and the compile and program option. Compile would just basically test to make sure that it was successful code, that there were no errors in there, while the compile program will use whichever programmer I have set up to dump the hex file to save me actually having to run that as a separate entity and load the code into it. So I'm going to go ahead and compile program. You'll see a small pop-up window here which is the MPASM compiler going through its process of assembling the code into a hex file. We'll get a successful or unsuccessful error message down the bottom here once that's completed. You can see here success 1269 words were used, and it goes ahead and opens the ME Labs programmer ready for me to actually burn this to the LCD. So this is the code itself. In hex format, we have some other tabs here that we can use to inspect different areas of the chip. I have my oscillator set to high speed because I'm using an external 20 megahertz oscillator. I have my target device set to the PIC 16F88, which is correct, so I can go ahead and program this now. This is now going via the USB cable down to the programmer, which shows an orange light during that programming phase and then turns green when it's finished, at which time it actually boots the chip and allows the code to run. So we can see here I'm seeing the day of the week, Wednesday, I'm seeing the time and the date, and they cycle through about 3 seconds each and just alternate backwards and forwards between the two. The temperature is coming from the sensor which is located on the prototyping board. I'm just going to put my finger on that sensor now and just try to warm that up a bit. You can see that's making changes immediately. And that would continue to go as long as I kept my finger on there.